they said close to $500 million worth of drugs. So let's get over into that. We got a few videos to watch from this. Insane. Let's get into it.
The Coast Guard offloading the largest haul of illegal drugs in its history. Local 10 Syra Anwar is live with the stunning video of the bust on the high seas. Syra.
Nicole, it's always cool to be able to come out here to Port Everglades and give the Coast Guard the opportunity to show off their hard work. All of these interdictions, these drug seizures that they make to prevent these drugs from ever hitting our streets. Well, today was particularly remarkable just with the sheer amount of drugs they were able to seize. The Coast Guard sharing this video from summer interdictions that they say will lead to safer streets for South Floridians and potentially all Americans. It shows a Coast Guard crew in August interdicting a Go-Fast vessel suspected of drug smuggling approximately 40 miles southwest of Haiti. Sky 10 flying over Port Everglades Monday morning, where the Coast Guard cutter Hamilton made history.
We are surging additional cutters, aircraft, and tactical law enforcement teams to the eastern Pacific Ocean to hunt down, interdict, and board these suspected smugglers, all in support of Operation Pacific Viper.
It was a good day for the good guys, the U.S. Coast Guard marking an historic milestone. Officials offloading more than 77,000 pounds of illegal narcotics at Port Everglades, the largest single drug offload in the Coast Guard's history. The massive haul seized earlier this summer by crews on board the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Hamilton. It includes more than 60 pounds of cocaine and nearly 16,000 pounds of marijuana.
Many of the interdicted vessels we are talking about left Venezuela.
Altogether, the Coast Guard reports the contraband is worth more than $473 million on the street. The Coast Guard reports the vessels are from organized crime gangs in Latin America like Tren de Aragua and Cartel de Solas.
These drugs fuel and enable cartels and transnational criminal organizations, the very same groups that are pushing fentanyl and other deadly substances to our communities.
So a good question is, what happens to all of those drugs now? They are transported from here at the port to the hands of the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, of course, with a lot of security and a lot of surveillance.
Oh, yeah.
Reporting live from Port Everglades tonight, Syra Anwar, local.
Absolutely crazy. They got close to $500 million worth of drugs, cocaine and marijuana. Absolutely crazy. Let's get over into this next video. This next one's I believe they're just going through. We actually see them unloading. It's not really much sound, but let's get into it. Let's watch it. Wow. I wonder how much we know that heavy. $80 or so pounds. Stacks and stacks and stuff.
That's brown. That's purple. There you go. Purple. Yep. Purple. All right, last year, bro.
Absolutely crazy. Let's get over into this next one. That was just a little video. Let's get over to this next video.
We begin tonight with the massive drug busts on the high seas. Today, the Coast Guard offloaded a record-breaking haul with an estimated worth of nearly $500 million. Over the course of 2 months, officials say they seized more than 61,000 pounds of cocaine. It's part of an escalating crackdown on drug cartels, and Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga joins me now to tell me about it. Nicole, what was the operation that led to this haul?
Yeah, John, more than 76,000 pounds of illegal narcotics, valued, as you said it there, nearly $500 million. And it was the result of 19 different maritime seizures in the Eastern Pacific and Caribbean Sea dating back to June. The U.S. Coast Guard says the drugs seized represent 23 million potentially lethal doses, enough to kill everyone in the state of Florida. The majority of that was cocaine, but other drugs included marijuana and the building blocks of fentanyl. On top of that, the crew stopped 11 what's called go-fast vessels, speedboats, and detained 34 suspected drug traffickers. If these numbers seem shocking for a 2-month operation, they shouldn't be. An explosion in the global container shipping business has allowed narco traffickers to take to the high seas, fueling Europe and other countries' growing appetite for cocaine. The Coast Guard says 80% of all illegal drugs are now seized by authorities in this way.
Wow. And so, Nicole, how does this fit into the administration's larger drug enforcement operations?
Yeah, earlier this month, President Trump signed a secret directive authorizing the Pentagon to use military force against some Latin American drug cartels. And just last week, we saw the first few signs of that action, the U.S. deploying 3 destroyers off the waters of Venezuela. President Trump has long blamed the cartels for the fentanyl pipeline into U.S. communities, stirring violence. The decision to bring not only the Coast Guard, but other branches of the U.S. military into this fight, though, is notable. It raises a number of legal questions. For instance, what happens if the U.S. forces injure or kill civilians outside of a congressionally authorized armed conflict? What is clear today is the U.S. government is waging this war on drugs on multiple fronts. In fact, just this afternoon, the Attorney General announced Ismael Zambada Garcia, the infamous founder of the Sinaloa cartel, pled guilty in New York to drug trafficking following his capture last year. On this Monday in August, John, those are 2 big wins in a battle we've spent decades losing.
Wow. Absolutely crazy. Tell me your thoughts, y'all. Tell me your thoughts. That much $500 million worth of drugs. You had cocaine, marijuana, and you had the building blocks of fentanyl. Luckily, they're out there catching. They said this is a 2-month operation. In 2 months, they was able to get that much. And that's like 80. They said it's 80% of the drugs coming in comes from the Coast Guard or comes from overseas and stuff like that, through the seas, not land, through the seas. Absolutely crazy. I wanted to bring everybody's attention to that, but let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know your thoughts on that. Like I always say, anybody who's dealing fentanyl, especially fentanyl, anybody who's dealing fentanyl needs to be sent, dealing or bringing it in, needs to spend the rest of their life in jail. The rest. So deadly, makes no sense. But like I always say, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. But, all right, everybody, remember this is AC Reviews the Word. Remember to like and subscribe.